Alright, well, before we get too deep into today's video, I wanted to talk to you about today's video sponsor, Factor. So, Factor has been absolutely revolutionary in my life, my eating schedule, my eating habits, my schedule in general, my health habits, I mean literally across the board. Because I get fresh, never frozen meals delivered right to my door that are ready in as little as 2 minutes. 2 minutes. It's amazing. It has been such a game changer for me because prior to Factor, I would just literally get stressed about mealtime because I wouldn't know what I was going to do. Was I going to get takeout? Was I going to try to eat some of the ingredients that I bought at the grocery store a week ago that are about to go bad? And then I'm out here and I'm working and it's getting late and I'm stressing because I still need to eat and I'm hungry, but I don't have time because I want to finish this project. Whereas with Factor, whenever I want to eat, whatever point in time during the day, in 2 minutes, I have a hot, delicious meal that is quality, real food. It's amazing. I love it so much. And it's so flexible, which is huge for me too because I travel a lot. You know, if I'm going to be gone for the weekend, I'll scale back my meals for that week. If I'm going to be gone for a week or two, then I'll just skip those weeks so that way I don't have the meals. The meals aren't going to waste. And the fact that I can work it around my schedule like that in really every sense is huge. It's amazing because my schedule is kind of all over the place and it allows me to be out here in the shop getting more done. I save money on takeout and I feel better than I do eating takeout, and I've saved so much time from cooking at home. So for me, it checks all the boxes. So I would highly recommend it. You know, everyone I've talked to that has tried it, that I've recommended it to, has absolutely loved it. I think you will too. I think it's worth trying. If you're interested in trying it, head to factor75.com or click the link down below and use code TaylorJoes50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. It's a great deal and a great way to try it out firsthand and see if you love it as much as I do, because for me, I could never go back. That being said, huge shout out to Factor for sponsoring not only today's video, but being a regular sponsor of the channel, helping us do what we're doing here. You know, I appreciate them immensely. They are awesome. So huge shout out to them. But that being said, we got a lot of work to do, so we need to get into it. All right, well, today we're going to be doing probably the most dramatic set of upgrades yet for the Turbo LS street truck here. I am so excited for this. This thing has been so close to being dialed for a while, and it just hasn't been there, and it should be after today. So if you're unfamiliar with this truck, basically I had this truck for a while. I daily drove it. I towed with it while I built the come and swap Ford, and then after I didn't need to use it anymore, we finally did what I've been planning all along, a Turbo LS setup. So it's a 6-liter that we put together, rods, pistons, bottom end, iron block, ported heads, trunnion upgrade, lifters, all that stuff. It's a really, really good long block that should handle easy 1,000 horsepower. It's a pretty solid setup, but we haven't really ever been able to push it because of the wheel and tire combo that we've had on this truck. This is what I got the truck on and what it's still on. There's some, 31-inch all-terrains, and just the looks in general of this truck have bugged me for so long. And even having it done, I barely drove it. So we changed the exhaust setup. I rebuilt it and did a 4-inch out the back to quiet it down because that was one of my biggest gripes. And then we started working on the aesthetics. So we slammed it, and I was hoping to drive it around a little bit with the stock wheels and tires, but they're too tall for how low it is. The thing is way too low for this wheel and tire combo. It is literally sitting on the inner fender. So it's been basically undrivable for the last couple months, and we were torn on what wheel and tire setup to go with because it kind of depended on what direction we wanted to go long term. Now, we finally have some local E85 stations, so we can get pump E85 close to the house, which that was really the tipping point on which way we wanted to go with this. And you can kind of see where we're going with this. We're going to be upgrading it, doing a new fuel system, bigger turbo, and all of that to make more power. So I went on Fitment Industries website, put in the PCD and the offset and the size ranges I was looking for, and looked through all the options, and we were debating between, a 20-inch setup with street tires or a 17-inch setup with more drag-oriented tires, or even going full drag setup with 15s and slicks. And I debated this a lot. Unfortunately, Fitment Industries website is incredibly easy to look through. That is my favorite thing. They've just been my go-to for wheels for that reason, because it's so easy to categorize and see what wheels are available for a given vehicle, and then also know if they're in stock, if you're going to be able to get them anytime in the near future, or if it's something that's back ordered. So huge shout out to Fitment Industries. They have been great to deal with for wheels and tires. They're super knowledgeable. I would highly recommend them. If you're looking for wheels and tires for something, go on Fitment Industries website. It makes it so much easier. So huge shout out to them. That being said, here's what we got. Here's what we decided on. We went kind of in the middle and decided with a 17-inch wheel, wide in the back, skinnies in the front, typical setup, but radials, because it's still a street truck. So radials all around, big tires, skinny fronts, weld wheels. This is kind of the dream setup for this truck. It's something I've always wanted to do, and we're finally not only going to get to see the kind of the end product, but also actually be able to drive it, but also actually be able to finally put some power down and see what this thing does on the draggy. So this should be pretty exciting. I'm stoked. I'm so ready for it. We've peaked, but it's finally time to see what the whole combination looks like and get it on the truck and see what the truck looks like. So that being said, whole lot of jibber jabber. It's time to get to work. I've been ready for this.
Should be good. Can't go wrong with a good drag pack.
Dude, look at this. I'm so hyped on this. They're legit beat locks. My first ever set of beat locks.
We're doing it.
You can see our DJM drop kit here. This thing's fresh, man. It's ready to go. Just needs some wheels and tires that A, don't sit on the fender liner, as you can see ours were, and B, can actually put some power to the ground for the V8 motor. The V8 motor. Motor. These are so tiny.
A little donut.
All right, we got the skinnies mounted, and we got the big old rears mounted. Oh, we just got to put the bead locks on now. All right, well, we are fully mounted and balanced. Just kidding. We don't balance our wheels and tires because as long as you got a quality tire and a quality wheel, you almost never need it. Anyway, jibber jabber, mounted, bead lock tightened down. Man, that's gonna look good on there. Woo, are you ready? I'm ready. Oof, let's do it. We did have to go to the parts store and get some cheapo lug nuts, so we're gonna have to get some nicer ones. It was that or Amazon, which are also cheapo. I want to get some quality ones, so these will get us by for now. And the set was for a 5-lug car, so locking lug nut. You got to use 2 different sockets, so that's, you know, makes it locking. The thieves, it'll throw the thieves off. Whew. I'm not gonna look at it yet. I'm gonna wait.
I already glanced at it, but the fitment's already looking good on the money.
Yeah, no, I was worried they were going to be sunk because they're so small, but obviously they know what they're doing, and Fitment Industries knows what they're doing. Right. It's like, I don't know, I'm just so impressed with Fitment because it's like takes all the guesswork out. It's like other sites I've tried to buy wheels on, you're like, you select a certain PCD or something and you don't realize that they mixed in ones that weren't for that, and then
Right. And they usually...
you go to order them, you're like, oh, they do have this size. You're like, oh.
Don't they have a decent variety of cars on their site?
Oh,
like
yeah.
examples.
Yeah, they have like,
do.
you can go look at like a certain wheel and see customer photos of that wheel on different cars, which is also really cool. Because you might like the wheel and then realize you don't like it on...
On that... Oh, God.
That ain't gonna work. Is that 3/8 or half inch? 3/8. Oh my God! It's happening!
It's happening. It immediately turns into a race truck.
Literally. I haven't looked at it. I'm trying not to look at it. Whenever we do a project, I was trying not to look at it. Woo! Drop it. Woo! Put the ramps down. It's going to be probably too low to even come off the lift remotely. Let's see. Sheesh. Oh my God, so low. There. It's a full-on race truck now. There, it looks almost cool with the ratty paint with the baller wheels. With the polished, I've only ever seen this truck on stock wheels with 31-inch all-terrains. Dude, look at that. Whew. We'll have to pull it out to see what our clearances are, but I'm pretty sure I gotta rebuild that crossover. Oh, it's probably close now. Oh yeah, it's gonna be like touching the ground. Once we're off the ramps, you know?
It's low. I was not...
Oh my God, it's low. All right, well, you can see better now with the light. Oh my gosh, it looks so much cooler. Oh, I can't wait to drive it. But before we can drive it, we've got a problem, which I knew it was going to be a problem. I was just hopeful that it would be movable, as is barely. You can't really see it, but there's the crossover for the turbo kit is very, very close to the ground. So I got to rebuild it and tuck it. But you can see how close the frame rail is to the ground. This thing is slammed. Dude, that cross member is almost touching the ground.
Oh, goodness.
That's, I don't understand why it's that low. Put a leveling kit on it with like lift springs just to raise it back up some. Well, as you can see, this thing looks sick, but is way, way, way too low. The rear is fine. The rear is great. The front is just too low. So as you can see, we've already scraped this thing up. Now, I knew this was going to be a problem, and I knew it was going to have to get resolved immediately. So that's not really a surprise. However, it is so low now that I'm pretty sure the transmission mount is even grinding on the ground. Those look fresh to me. So I'm thinking even with this tucked up, we're still gonna be too low. Now, I believe the problem is, well, this is only a 5-inch drop kit, which would probably be okay. The springs are the original springs with 240,000 miles on them. So they've probably sagged quite a bit. So I think that's really causing the truck to be a bit lower, not to mention the weight we've added with the turbo setup, the intercooler, all those things. So I think what we need to do is either get a new set of springs, some longer springs, or what I have ordered is a spring spacer, like a leveling kit basically, to raise the front up 1.5 inches. We're gonna see kind of where that puts us and then go from there. I'd like to get some potentially stiffer springs, but I need an idea of how much higher we wanna go before I try to track down the right set of springs. So we're gonna start with the spring spacers. I got those ordered, they should be here in a day or so we can get that knocked out. But first things first, we need to rebuild this crossover. I have the old crossover from the vet. Funny enough, it's gonna get repurposed here. And I've been saving this, not knowing if I'd ever do anything with it. And it's time to shine. So we're gonna cut this up, we're gonna cut that up and try to make a crossover that does not hang 2 inches below the oil pan. That's the plan, at least. Some good old fab work, my favorite. So I'm gonna go jibber jabber and we're gonna get to it. So the first step was to determine how much I needed to cut and try to mark these to where I could cut them both evenly. If one's cut way higher than the other, then it's gonna be harder to make them meet up with the same number of pieces. So I got them cut apart and then went ahead and put the pieces back in place so that we could start looking at a route from A to B. Now this is gonna be tricky with what we have, you know, we don't have much. We can't really afford to make any mistakes here or make any wrong cuts. We've got to use pretty much every one of these bends that we have left over from this old crossover. So I went ahead and cut the wastegate side a little bit shorter just to give me a little more room to make the curve, and then started cutting apart the old crossover from the vet and cleaning up all of those pieces. Again, this is not ideal. This is not the way I would choose to do it, but it's the only 2 1/4 material I got, and I think it's looking like we're going to be able to make it work. So we've got to just keep cutting out every single bend we can scavenge out of this old crossover so that we have as many options as possible to play with here to try to get this right and the way we want it. One of the big important things is also cleaning out the inside. After you cut them, you end up with a lot of junk in there. So the last piece we could scavenge was these bends off of the old crossover that was on the truck. Get those cleaned up, get those ready to go, and then we've got every bin that we could possibly scavenge out of both of these setups to work with, and hopefully we can get from A to B. So I start using my PET tape. This is a high temp powder coating tape, and it's great for the fact that you can weld and it won't just instantly melt away, but it's not the stickiest stuff. So I was having trouble with the pieces trying to fall apart after I would tape them up, and it was getting challenging. Now, I like to try to tape this stuff up all the way before I weld anything, so that way I don't box myself into a corner. But in this scenario, we had to get these things tacked to keep moving forward. I couldn't add any more pieces to these without them trying to fall apart on me. So that's kind of one of those things. It's a balance that you got to find where you're either tacking and committing to kind of what you've got, but at least it's not going to fall apart on you and you have to start from scratch, because there's nothing worse than getting pretty deep in having some bends put together and you've got it going where you want, and then they all just fall off and hit the ground. All right, well, this has definitely been challenging with just having these scrap pieces to work with, but I've got the first side where I'm happy with it. It's pointing straight. Now, the key is going to be if we can get this side to point straight. I'm hoping we can, with all the pieces we have, get this pretty straight, and then we'll just make a middle piece. But I went ahead and tacked all this together. I'm committed to this now, unless I want to cut these tacks. So I have to be able to make the other side match it. I'm gonna rotate this a little bit and then see if we can't get these two to join up. But if we do, which I'll figure it out one way or another, we're pretty much above the oil pan now, which is good. There's plenty of other stuff that hangs lower, so we're getting there. So with the first set of curves more or less settled, it's time for what's going to be the harder part, and that is the second set of curves. Now this is trickier because we don't have as much freedom as we did with the first set. The first set just had to go in the general area, whereas these need to go in a way where they're going to match up with the first set. So it's a little bit, we're in a little bit tighter constraints with what we can do here and how creative we can really get. So I went ahead and got those tacked pretty early on. I was just tired of fighting the PET tape. And we've got it pretty close, you know. We're pretty much where we were looking to be. We actually only needed 2 bends on that side. So I cut a straight piece and it just wasn't quite right. So I cut another one, and started working on trimming it and grinding it, just trying to get the right combination of angles in, because the two sides aren't perfectly square with each other. So it's really not an ideal scenario, but we've got it fitting close enough to where I'm happy with it. We don't have any huge gaps. It's not the most beautiful looking piece of anything I've ever made, but it's gonna work, and functionally it's tucked up where we want it. Whew. Tagging stuff in the vehicle, on the vehicle, it's always challenging. It's a lot of contorting. But we got it done. Got from A to B. It's not terrible gaps. Pretty good gaps, honestly. It's just the shape is kind of ugly. But we're still almost fully above the pan, so I'm good with it. For scrap pieces being all we had, I'm good with it. So with all the cutting and fitting and tacking done and out of the way, we've got our back purge set up in, and it's time to weld this out. Now, you would think with this being kind of junk material that we wouldn't bother back purging it, but for me, anything pre-turbo needs to be back purged. This keeps the oxidation off the inside of the weld, because those little pieces can break off and go through the turbo. Probably wouldn't be a problem, but that's like my personal rule is if it's pre-turbo, always back purge. If it's post-turbo, it's kind of at your discretion, but really it's worth the effort. So we're playing around with some pulse here. I normally don't bother with pulse because, you know, it's good if you're doing production runs of a bunch of the same thing, because you need to take some time to get it dialed in. But in this scenario, I just wanted to make it a little more interesting welding this thing out. So we decided to do it with some pulse. And all in all, for some scrap pieces, not too bad. Went pretty quick. I gotta say, it doesn't look too terrible now that it's all welded up and back on the truck. Really, not awful. This is what bothers me the most. These look all right. This looks all right. Just the connecting the dots here does not look too great. But other than that, it does the job. It's functional. Now our drain plug is above it, so it won't drain right onto it. It's tucked up there nice and high. So problem solved. Put the wastegate back on, fire it up, try to take it off the lift again. Though I am pretty confident that the transmission mount scrapes. But we'll see how it is. I'm gonna have to lower this thing down to do this. Yes. If you've never put a wastegate on, you might not know how challenging that is. Because of the firing, you basically had to compress the wastegate spring to get it onto the flange. I did get a new bolt. So our old bolt was corroded. Which I want to say I already replaced this bolt. So means my bolts suck. Hello.
What's up?
What up?
Look at my text messages.
Oh, I didn't see it. I do not remember, but I could try to find my requirement. We might have clear. It's going to be pretty close, but you can see our crossover is nowhere to be found. It will not be a problem any longer. So let's back this thing off the ramps and see if it's drivable. exhaust is good. We got plenty of clearance. So we're for sure gonna have to raise the front before we can actually drive this thing. But that's good because the tire's a little smaller in the front. It's a 27 versus a 28. So it'll be good to lift the front up an inch, inch and a half. That should put us at a decent spot, I think. We might almost need to go 2 inches because that's not even settled. But boy, does it look good. It'll look perfect, I think, with the front up some. It's a little too nose down for me at the moment, but wow. First time seeing it in the sunlight, and holy moly. It looks good. Oh, hell yeah. Oh, that's it, working. That's why you should never lower your car. All right, well, we got our spring spacers in. I'm hoping these are enough. I'm worrying that I maybe should have gone with 2 inch, but I think this will get us out of the weeds enough to drive the truck around. Maybe do a hit, but we won't know until we get them in there. Yeah, because these are like an inch, which I was thinking about that because I was like, I wonder if these are measured as 1.5 inches at the spring or at the wheel, because where the spring is on the control arm, that 1.5 inches at the spring would actually be more than 1.5 inches at the wheel. These are about 1 inch. Yeah, we're right at 1 inch. Hopefully that's enough. I think that'll be enough. I mean, better than where we're at. Downside is we got to unbolt the whole front suspension to drop the spring down to get these spring spacers in there. So it's not going to be the most fun, quick little project, but I just want to drive this thing. I'm so ready to feel the grip and traction of a radial. I've never had a car with a radial on it, so this is a big moment. If we can just get this thing up enough to not just drag the ground everywhere. Oversight on my part. Should have got new springs when I got the DJ and lowering kit, but I didn't think about it. So let's get back to it. So the last thing standing in our way of driving this is these spring spacers. So I am really excited to get these swapped in. Hope that everything fits and works, and hope that this gets the truck high enough to be drivable. You know, we put all the other work in to get everything else done, and this is really the last thing standing in the way. So I start tearing apart the front suspension, which was kind of painful because we just did this front suspension not too long ago. However, the benefit is it's not stuff that hasn't been taken apart in 20 years, you know, where everything's going to fight us. In theory, it should be pretty straightforward. So I got the suspension disconnected enough to drop the spring down enough to get the spring spacer on top of the spring and then start putting everything back together. Now the trickiest part of this is the shock. The shock is matched to the stock spring size. So now that we've made that longer, the shock does not want to fit and bolt in correctly. So I had to get a little bit creative there and come up with a solution. But once I got that out of the way, it was really just buttoning everything back up, putting everything back together, and then seeing the result. All right, spring spacers are in. Everything's hooked back up. We also took the time while we were in here to pull some camber out. We just eyeballed it at about mid-range when we put this together originally, and it had too much negative camber in the front. So we got some camber pulled out, and we should have some ride height back, and hopefully the combination of those two things means that we can actually drive it around and see what happens. So moment of truth. Let's get these wheels tossed back on, set this thing down, and see where we're at ride height wise. I really hope we don't have to take it back apart and go even bigger on the spring spacer. Man, it definitely seems a lot better. That's like way better.
Yeah.
But that's good though.
Yeah.
That's like where it needs to be, honestly. And then it'll probably settle a little bit. So we might be on the money finally. To the transmission mount now. now. And it's sitting kind of level, maybe it's slightly up in the front, which is what I would want. And it should settle some in the front, I would imagine. See, we got some room now to the mount. You can see how high the crossover is, you can't even really see it. So as long as this doesn't settle an extreme amount, we should be in good shape. Drives smooth now, dude, compared to the 31s. Stock suspension. I don't know if the toe is right, because I don't even know if I eyeballed it. It was so long ago. Sheesh. Well, we got to go back home and roll the fenders because we almost destroyed the tires already. Messed them up pretty good down here.
Let's be squatting. Back to the house.
Okay, now we got a half tank. So that's good. Alright, we got our fenders rolled. It should be enough, you know. A lot of times the biggest thing with rolling them is just taking off that sharp lip that wants to cut into the tire. You know, a smooth edge rubbing on the tire is not the end of the world, but a sharp lip will just cut into the tire like it did with us. But luckily it seems like it's okay. Added some extra grooves, you know. So now we need to align the front. I don't recall if I ever did the toe in the front, and with changing the camber, that's gonna have changed the toe. So perfect time. First real use of the alignment stands we built a week or so ago. So you can leave a wrench in place. That's kind of cool. I said that wasn't planned.
Nah, dude, it was all planned.
So here's a quick look at this thing up on the stands we built. Like I said, this is really our first time using the stands. Not just testing them out. The little chocks worked out pretty perfect. I guess they are kind of digging into the tire a little bit. Could stand to make those maybe a touch wider, but overall, it works. Alignment stands doing the thing, dude. So nice to be able to look under it with it like this. This is the benefit of alignment stands. When I was looking at my axle to exhaust clearance, it's with everything drooped, but this is with it at ride height. You can see we've still got about an inch. Just gotta hope this old 12 bolt hangs in there for us for a little while. This thing is a transmission cooler. Yeah. It's not overheating, but it's just steadily creeping. Yeah, it'll go. It hasn't even offered to spin.
That's a button.
Oh god damn. What?
A button.
Like a launch button? Yeah, we need, like, I want to do it on this overdrive button. Oh, man, it looks so sick from back here. Now that it's all settled, I'll take a gander from back here. It's got the meats, where you just see the lip and the tire fitment. What a rig, man. Totally transformed the look of this thing. Still a little low. We're still kind of scraping the transmission mount in certain scenarios, but I mean, I think that's just the nature of the beast. Like, if we want to have it this low, I think if anything, we need to go bigger on the front tire. I'd pick it up a 1/2 inch to 1 inch. But for right now, it is totally drivable. That transmission mount just hangs really low. I mean, worst case, if I really feel like, I'll just rebuild that whole mount. Like, cut the mounts off the frame, because that's the problem. It's like the mounts on the frame go down, and then the mount itself is real big. I think I could redo that mount very simply and fix that. So that being said, I charged the draggy and everything. So I wanted to do a draggy run, and maybe I will tomorrow, daytime when it's not rush hour, everyone coming home. The biggest problem is we really need to go a decent bit away from the house to be able to do this. Where I live is not a great place to be doing anything illegal on the road. You know, obviously we would go to Mexico, but you know what I'm saying. So it's just, we need to go. We have an area that we can go to and that we want to go to do some test hits, but we still don't have the transmission cooling dialed yet. You know, we started with a cooler in the front. It wasn't working great. Put it in the back, wasn't working great. Put a bigger one in the back with a big fan and shroud all built in. Still not working great. It slowly creeps up as you're driving around. Even if you get into converter lockup, that's like the only time it'll stop gaining temp. So I need to resolve that. I need to put a bigger cooler and put it in the front so it's getting airflow while we're cruising to keep the transmission temps in check. Because by the time we would get over there, unless I started it ice cold, the transmission would already be too hot to be doing a launch in a pool anyway. So I kind of forgot about that. So my apologies, no major pulls today. But the wheels and tires are on, the crossover's redone, the suspension is dialed, we've got the alignment done, we've got the ride height pretty much exactly where we want it. All of that is good and well. This thing is about ready to rip. We got to add a transmission brake, which it's not really that, but a launch button, which I want to do off the overdrive button. Better transmission cooler. Test it out on pump gas, kind of spicy, and then we can do E and see what we pick up. So that'll be the plan. Fix the odds and ends to get this thing truly drivable so we can actually take it some distance to a spot and go do some test hits, and then put that Detroit fuel system in it and put it on E and see what this thing will really do. So anyway, that being said, we are out of time. So I'm going to go into here, but I do want to say thank you for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I sure hope I'll get to see you next time. Goodbye. I mean that. Come back. We'll be here. All right, goodbye.